Hey siblings, today I am talking about toxic masculinity. Like many other socially constructed terms, toxic masculinity is usually very much misused. So, in this particular context, what I mean by toxic masculinity is the exaggerated stereotypes that society has about men. Um, the idea that men should suppress their feelings and emotions, the idea that in order for a man to exercise control, the idea that men constantly have to exercise dominance and control, and in certain instances, in an attempt to exercise such control, they become abusive because they think that in order to be heard, in order to pass their message, they have to show that by being violent. So that's what I mean by toxic masculinity. Men are constantly told that they have to man up, they have to be men enough, they have to be real men. So in an attempt to be real men, and in an attempt to be seen as strong, men hardly ever express their emotions, and even amongst themselves they don't do it at all, whether with women or with other men. They just don't do it. I do believe that men do talk to one another, but when they talk, it's not to reveal their feelings but to conceal. They don't talk in a genuine manner. Whatever conversations that they have amongst one another are conversations that constantly have to portray them as being strong. The other day on Twitter, when I was busy reading about this particular subject, I posted a question on Twitter from one of the videos that I watched on YouTube, and I asked men why some of them find it so hard to be vulnerable, and most of them were saying that they can't be vulnerable to women because it's usually used against them. And then others were saying that it's because they were raised in a manner that says that they should be strong. So anything other than being strong is seen as weak. So because of that, they can't be vulnerable. And but the thing is, a lot of them were saying that when they become vulnerable to women, their women's friends will find out about whatever it is that they were vulnerable about. So then I asked the question, Kuti, do you have to, when you're vulnerable, does it have to be to a woman? Can't you be vulnerable to other men? But most of them were putting the blame on women, and that's what toxic masculinity does. They don't take responsibility, because remember, as men, the society, actually we, because we are the society, we can't blame society when we are society. We have put it on men to be so strong, and because we say that they must be strong, anything that says you're an imperfect human being makes them believe that they are weak. So whenever something happens that reveals their imperfections, they have to transfer the responsibility and the accountability to someone else. I believe that's why most of them were saying we can't be vulnerable to women. But my question wasn't whether they are vulnerable to women. My question was, why do they find it hard to be vulnerable? And almost every comment was about women, when my question was about men. And like I said, that's what toxic masculinity does. The responsibility will always be shifted to someone else. The only time a man takes responsibility is when they are praised for something good that they did. And another thing is that most of the time, when someone is wearing something, there's this photo that was trending, I think it was last year. It used to make rounds a lot. This lady is wearing a bum short, and then men would take the picture and say, Gents, would you walk around with your girlfriend looking like this? Or gents, would you date someone who dresses like this? Right? And most of them were like, no, I would never do like that. I would never do that. I wouldn't allow my woman to expose my stuff. It's a woman exposing her own body, but most of the men were saying they wouldn't date someone who exposes their stuff. And that's also what toxic masculinity does. Men feel like they own women's bodies, and because they feel so entitled, when their sexual advances are being rejected by women, they feel so aggressive, and they feel like their masculinity has been insulted. And that's what in most cases result in things like sexual assault, because men feel like, because of the idea that they have to always be hard and they have to always be powerful, when their advances are rejected, this kills, or rather it bruises their ego so much so that they feel the need to apply force. And guys, because I'm talking about this, I don't want you to listen to this and think I am saying that masculinity in and of itself is toxic. I am speaking about situations where masculinity becomes toxic. Masculinity itself is not inherently toxic, but the behavior that we as society has instilled in men is that they are more superior and women are inferior. And because of that, men are constantly expected to they are constantly expected to show more strength. That is why when a man is going through when I, as a woman, when I am going through something, it's easy for me to go to my friends and tell them, and it's even easy for me to even cry when I know that I'm not okay. But as a man, it's hard when you're going through something. It's hard to go to your friends and tell them I'm going through 1 2 3, and you even feel the freedom to cry. It's very hard to do that because as a man, you're not supposed to show weakness. Have you noticed that whenever whenever they upload a woman who is perceived as strong, and they will write all these qualities and all these challenges the person has went through, and it usually goes something like, from the tears you've cried, the challenges you went through, you're such a strong woman and whatnot. But in case of a man, his strength is measured by the successes he has, and how he how he always acts tough in certain situations. I've never seen a picture of a man with a caption that says, "You've cried so much to get at this stage, you're such a strong man." Whenever a man cries, whenever a man cries, he is seen as weak. And even with regards to gender-based violence, most of the time the cases that are usually reported are from women. Whenever a man is beaten, they have to they conceal it, because they know that, and it's not only their belief, it is that way, that if a man was to get assaulted, or if a man was to constantly be abused, and they go public about it, most of the time they will either be laughed at, or they will be told about how weak they are. So as a result, it's hard for men to go forward and say, "This is what I'm going through." And I chose to come forward about it, and not because I am weak, but because I want something to be done about this. Men conceal that, but as a woman, when something like that happens, we are very quick to report it, because we need help. Of course, not every woman reports gender-based violence. I'm just making an example of how toxic masculinity is capable of destroying men, because men are constantly expected to be strong. Men are constantly expected to not be vulnerable, and because of that we are raising men who walk around with very weak egos. You're not even supposed to make a comment that that a man feels like attacks his masculinity. Even as a woman, if you're a woman and you're a successful woman, whatever your definition of success is, if you're perceived as successful, the one thing that is common with women like that is singleness, unless you're from a big city where there are a lot of open-minded people. But if you're from a small place like myself, and you're a career woman, or you're successful, whatever the case may be, um, most of the time you'll be told that you're single because you intimidate men. But why, when you ask why men are intimidated, when you're a woman and you earn more than a man, you're a threat. When you're a woman and you're a career woman, you like you're very big on your career, you are seen as a threat to men and to their egos, because as a man they be as a man they believe that they are the ones that have to be the provider. A woman cannot be the provider. And I'm sure you will agree with me that that's so ridiculous in 2020, but it still happens. It still happens that when a woman, even when you get, even when even when you go to a restaurant with your man or your guy friend or whoever, if you were to go to a restaurant and you're a woman, and you eat, after eating, the bill will be given. Even if you're the one that's gonna pay, the bill will, the bill will be given to a man. It's automatically expected that this man has to pay, in as much as there's nothing wrong with men paying for us, but it's always perceived that a man has to be a provider. So because of that, these men walk around with such fragile egos that a woman who earns more than him is a threat to him. Of course, there's nothing wrong with men wanting to earn more, only if it's not because they think earning less has anything to do with their masculinity. So toxic masculinity, like it's this concept, although now it's called toxic masculinity. Back then it was just traditional masculinity. It's very primitive in my opinion, because guys, it's no secret that now women are emancipated. Like as women, we are not at a place anymore where we feel like we have to depend on men. But because of toxic masculinity, men constantly feel like if you're a woman and you're more successful than him, then he can't be with you because you're a threat. And this video is not only about men, the relationship with men and women, but also the relationship between men amongst themselves, because like I said, men find it so hard to reveal their emotions. So I made this video, as you know that I said that I want this channel to be about healing. So I made this video because I want to encourage men, and I want to encourage men to find it in themselves to reveal whatever it is that they go through. Because I believe that most of the problem, especially guys, especially with gender-based violence, I believe that in order for us to get to a step where we fight and solve that, men have to be in a position where they know that they don't have to be in control all the time, and they have to be at a place where they know that in order for you to be regarded as a man, you don't have to be tough. It's okay for you to go to someone and say, I need help. There's nothing wrong with admitting that you need help. So how do we get to that place? I personally believe that as men, if you're a man and you're open-minded enough and you understand that being soft, has nothing to do with an attack to your masculinity. If you're a man and you're at that place in your life, I'm sure you do have friends. Try and sit with them and have discussions about what they think it means to be man enough. Like, sit down, and you know that imaginary men's conference, have something like that, but this time it doesn't have to be imaginary. Sit down with them and ask them what it means to be man enough. What do they think it means when somebody says to them, man up, or be a real man? What do they think it means to be a real man? Sit down with them and have such discussions. Ask them why they find it so hard to talk about things that they go through. And I believe that it's such conversations that will solve whatever problem it is that we have with toxic masculinity. And also, my sisters, I also urge you to be open-minded enough to always be willing to listen when it doesn't have to be your partner necessarily, but when a guy comes to you and they open up to you about something, don't find yourself saying, but you're a man, you have to be tough. We need to understand that men are human too, and human beings cry, and human beings go through things. And as human beings, you do find yourself at a place where you're like, you know what, I can't take this anymore, I need help. So before a person is a man, we need to understand that they are a human being. So as women, we also need to do better with regards to how we handle issues of masculinity. Like, the other day, I think it was yesterday, I don't quite remember, but the other day, this celebrity this celebrity tweeted himself coughing because I think he wanted to prove to people that he really has coronavirus. I don't know, but he did that. He tweeted that, and most of the comments were saying to him, "You're such a drama queen." Like, most of them, if you go, and you know who I'm talking about, if you go under that tweet where this person is coughing, you'll see how many people, both men and women, were calling this person a drama queen. But why a drama queen? Why couldn't he be a drama king? Because he's a guy. Why is he a drama queen? It's because most of the time, things that are bad or things that are dramatic are usually associated with being a woman. Because based on those comments, what that guy was doing was wrong and it was bad. And because it was wrong and bad, it would have been more fitting if it was done by a woman and not a man, which is the problem with toxic masculinity. So guys, I believe that we need to sit down and have these conversations more, and encourage men to open up, encourage men and tell and make them feel so free about whatever issues that they go through. And another thing that I would like us to also stop as women, like, guys, you can call me a pick-me, it's fine, but this thing of this also toxic femininity. I understand that this video is about toxic masculinity, but I want to take this out of the way as well. Toxic femininity, this idea that men can't say no to sex. When you want to have sex and he says no, not tonight, maybe tomorrow or some other time, and you force him to do it because men always want it. That's also toxic. It's toxic femininity. And also this thing of being abusive to people, whether men and women, and then we blame it on our periods. That's also toxic. So we also need to stop that. Guys, please, let's have conversations about toxic masculinity. Like, I wish I could go on and on about this topic, but I'm trying so much to make these videos as simple as they possibly can be, so that we can all relate to whatever it is that I am talking about. I don't want to make these issues complicated, but if you feel like you need to learn more, please do research about toxic masculinity. And please understand that I am not saying that masculinity in itself is inherently toxic. I am talking about situations where society exaggerates the idea, the standards of being a man. and the roles of men and women in society. When a man cooks for you as a woman, like such things, guys, please, we need to have conversations about such topics. We need to do better, because I believe that, for me, I believe that toxic masculinity, because now it's so extreme. I believe that it can lead, like it can be, should I say, a mental health issue. I don't know if I should call it a mental health issue, but I believe that it can be an illness, because of how extreme it is right now. And because men find it so hard to express their feelings. Yes, I think it can be a mental health issue, because how hard men find it to express their feelings, they find themselves drowning into depression because they can't talk about it. So imagine how healed we would be if we would have such conversations, if we were to talk with one another about what it means to be a man. What does it mean? Like right now in the comment box, tell me what it means to you to be a man, and tell me how you would feel if a man was to come to you and tell you and express his feelings to you. Just comment below and just tell me how you would feel if a man, or how you've handled it in the past when a man tells you something. Were you compassionate? Were you kind? Were you nice? Or did you tell him to be a man? What did you do? And if you're a man, please comment and tell me what it means to you to be a man. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please don't forget to subscribe, and if you loved it, don't forget to like, and also don't forget to share it with your friends and tell your friends to subscribe also. Thank you so much, guys. I love you to the moon and back.